One thing I've learned in my soccer travels in 2024 is sometimes a really good supporters culture can make you forget that soccer stadiums in America have some catching up to do with their European counterparts. Welcome to the away day review of Indy 11 and Carroll Stadium in Indianapolis. If this is your first time on this channel, first of all, welcome. Second of all, I've been traveling America this year in search of soccer culture, and this is my series reviewing the game day experiences of clubs you may not know about or you may have only heard just a little bit about. Maybe you're visiting one of these cities for something else in your life, unrelated. Maybe you're visiting family, you've got a work trip. Maybe you want to catch a game in this city. You've heard of Indy 11. Well, this is what the experience at an Indy 11 game is like. I hope this video helps you. So far, I've rated the teams and stadiums you see here. Yes, that is a women's soccer team sharing the top spot with a USL championship team. And so far, I've only rated one MLS experience, but I hope to do more in 2025. I really wanted to show off lower league culture this year, as it's something I'm still learning about myself. This is actually my second visit to Carroll Stadium this year. And by the way, do you like my hat? I actually collect badges every time I visit a game, and I'm going to see if you can spot the Indy 11 badges on this hat. Kind of like Where's Waldo? I visited Indy 11 in late April, just 2 days after their own city's mayor announced an MLS bid and pulled the rug out of Indy 11 stadium plans. You can watch that video in the top right corner, but I did not do an away day review for that one, as I only started doing these reviews in the Forward Madison game I covered in June. And you may have noticed in the standings that Forward Madison actually rated pretty well. Let's see if Indy 11 can come close to the top though. First, we need to talk about Carroll Stadium itself. Look, I think what I'm about to say in this segment isn't anything Indy 11 fans don't already know, so hopefully I'm not treated too harshly in the comments for what I'm about to say. Carroll Stadium is the literal definition of just okay. There's nothing offensively bad about it, but there's nothing incredibly good about it either. It's a 42-year-old stadium that shows its age a lot if you look hard enough. It was converted for soccer in the 2010s after being initially built for track and field, which is obvious when you consider how much the track dominates the layout of this place. I personally hate running tracks at soccer stadiums because they shove fans away from the field, and I'll get into how that affects the vibes and the atmosphere a little later on. On the flip side, it's very easy to get around with lots of room to maneuver in the stadium. I could have taken another path behind the seating that was much less travel, but I wanted to show off the stadium a bit. And there are things to do in the stadium itself, with this play area for kids on one end, and there are plenty of bathrooms which all function pretty well and are perfectly fine. And it's located downtown, which is a plus, and it has parking lots across the street you can park in, but it's all paid parking because it's on a university campus though. Also, there's not really a whole lot to do around the stadium in terms of restaurants, bars, fun, that sort of thing. Again, Carroll Stadium isn't a bad place per se, it's just not a good place either. It's fine, and it gets a passing 5.5 grade from me. It's not a baseball stadium, so it does suit the purpose, but the design really nerfs the atmosphere. I mean, Indy 11 has been trying for years to get its own stadium built, and you don't do that if you're madly in love with the current place, right? Now on to game quality, and this is going to carry the score quite a bit, as I'm scoring this based on the playoff game I saw against Rhode Island FC. But I should point out that this Indy 11 team was good enough to make a deep semifinal run in the US Open Cup, and so we got ourselves a pretty good game here. This game was a lot of fun in all honesty. Both teams were out on the front foot for this one and definitely played like they were playing for their soccer lives. Rhode Island was on an absolute heater heading into this game, and that continues on even in the playoffs. At the time of this recording, they beat Louisville City the following week. Top seeded, top ranked, top everything Louisville City in their own stadium. J.J. Williams for Rhode Island scored a hat trick, the first one I've seen in person since Phil Foden bagged the hattie for Man City against Aston Villa in April, and this will probably be one of the few times you'll hear a USL Championship striker mentioned in the same breath as Phil effing Foden. But this game was good theater, whether you were a fan of one of the clubs or a neutral. The two sides traded blows like heavyweight boxers, with the local team having to dig out of a 3-1 hole and almost doing so if it weren't for a goal being called back due to offsides, which at the time was controversial, but turned out to be probably the right call.
You'd be surprised, he doesn't look like much of a lover, but you can't judge a book by its cover.
And it was a physical game as well. You could really feel the tension and the high stakes between the two clubs, which each had their own underdog stories to tell. Indy 11 fighting to simply exist, and Rhode Island being an expansion club having a dream season. This game was one of the reasons I'm a fan of this sport. There's always a story to tell in this game, and this game had quite a few stories with it, including J.J. Williams becoming public enemy #1 because of semantics in addition to his goals. It was fun, dramatic, told a great story with other angles I'm cutting out for brevity's sake. A 9.0 honestly feels pretty fair here. Now on to the value score, and I'm actually shocked at the score I'm going to give it here. If you follow the sport from America or elsewhere, you know how American sport prices are inflated compared to the rest of the world, whether it's tickets, merchandise, food, or drink. And with some of the games I've covered this year, we're having a really hard time beating those allegations. But Indy 11 is honestly tremendous value for the money. No matter where you're buying from, $15 gets you in the door for a good game of soccer. That's tremendous. Concession prices are very, very reasonable. $2.50 for bottled water is perfectly fine when you consider places like KC Current charge over $5 for the stuff that literally keeps us alive as humans. Beers being mostly below $10 is also quite refreshing, for lack of a better term. They also have some food trucks there as well, and this one in particular was very popular with very reasonable prices for its burgers. I don't know if that's why there's this massive line before the game for it. It might just be really good. I was curious, but not curious enough to brave the line. What also surprised me was the merchandise. Most everything here was quite reasonable, though you had some shirts that were a bit on the pricey side. I know their jerseys tend to run about $95, but I was looking for the price on this one and I couldn't find one. That's because this was a clearance rack, and these jerseys were marked down to about $20 from past seasons. Scarves were also on sale for about $10, and these shirts were marked down to about $14. Which reminds me of something that I have learned over the years. If you can overcome your own FOMO, fear of missing out, teams do tend to have pretty big sales at the end of the season as they try to move out that old merchandise. And as someone that's a neutral, I don't mind wearing an Indy 11 jersey like this one that's a couple seasons old. To me, it's all the same. There were two places to buy merch that I could see, the tent as well as this trailer near the fun zone area. I know these clearance racks aren't out all season. I don't think they were there in April, for instance, but I can't ignore them for the score. $15 for a ticket, $20 for a jersey, shirts and scarves that were even cheaper than that, affordable food and drink options. I salute you, Indy 11, and you get a solid 8.5 rating for creating an affordable game day experience. I just wish I didn't have to pay for parking to attend your game, though. I teased earlier about how the design of Carroll Stadium really nerfs the vibes here. The track pushes fans back off the pitch except in the supporters area and suites, and the open design traps absolutely zero noise. Sound in these big, vast, airy spaces just tend to disappear into the ether. Listen to the Brickyard Battalion from the section itself. And now listen to it from midfield. It's a big, big difference. At the same time, though, most any soccer or football stadium will have a hard time matching the energy of its supporters section anyway. Matt Bird of the St. Louligans, who I rode to the game with, is very familiar with how a loud supporter section can be. City Park has one of the best in MLS. He sat in the general seating area for this game. He described the Indy 11 fans around him as pensive. When Indy 11 went down 1-0 and 2-1, they got nervous and were really invested in the game. And really, that's all you can ask for out of any fan base. Fans that pay attention to the game and react to the flow of the game, good or bad. In the Brickyard Battalion, these fans are the John McClane of the USL. They are die-hard, literally. I mean, look at the drama surrounding the future of their club this season alone. And they literally shake the ground when they get going.
By the way, these supporters are so into this game and so loud that when they chant, the ground below me literally shakes. That is how active they are.
Granted, that's partly because they're on a bleacher setup that obviously isn't meant to be permanent, but again, work with what you got in the lower leagues of America. But they do have a drum row, capos that rotate in and out, good pregame scran even, and it really does feel like a family here. A family that has made me feel welcome in the 3 times I've seen them this season. I'm not an Indy 11 supporter myself. Union Omaha is my lower league American club, but I can definitely empathize with them and also be impressed with their organization, dedication, and quite frankly, numbers. The atmosphere in the battalion is great and even a bit edgy at times, but away from the supporters end, the fans are also solid and turn out in solid numbers for this level week in and week out. But the openness of the stadium really deadens the atmosphere and I can't overlook it. So I feel a 7 is quite fair here, maybe even a bit generous. But the fans do try. They do the best with what they have. It's not a bad experience at all. It's just unfortunate that Indy doesn't have their own Louisville City-type stadium, because I think this score would be much higher if it did. But overall, going to an Indy 11 game is still a good time. It's a good team with a great supporters group and a really great value. It's just that stadium itself is just okay, and the atmosphere suffers outside of the supporters group. But it's still definitely worth checking out if you're in Indianapolis. You won't have a bad time. And this places Indy 11 in the mid-table of my rankings at 5th, just behind Tampa Bay Rowdies, but still ahead of Sporting Kansas City. And I think that's a fair rating. Give me the choice between the three teams without factoring in travel costs, and I would probably pick the Rowdies before Indy 11 or Sporting KC. But do you think I'm being too critical of Indy 11 stadium and atmosphere, or do you think my score overall was fair? Am I overrating the game itself? Leave a comment below and make sure to like and subscribe for more away day reviews. And help me do more reviews by subscribing to my 99-cent a month supporter section. It's not much, but it does add up and really is a big help in getting me to and from these games. Plus, you get to join all these cool people. This is your soccer zombie, Tom Franklin here, and if you want to see why I would pick a Tampa Bay Rowdies game over an Indy 11 game, you can watch that video right up here. I will note, though, this video was taken about a month before the hurricane hit Tampa and destroyed Tropicana Field down the street. It also did damage their stadium a bit as well, and they've been effectively homeless since then. Hopefully, they get back in Al Lang Stadium pretty soon. It really is a neat stadium, even though it is a former baseball stadium, but it works. Just, you'll see.